Welcome back to Sports Radio 95.9 The Fan. My name's Mark, and yes, this is the Mark Moses Show, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. Right now here on the Club 52 hotline. A good man down there in South Florida covers the Miami Hurricanes and the ACC for Canesport.com, part of the Rivals Network. His name is Gary Ferman. Gary, how you doing today?
Doing good. How you doing, Mark?
Hey, I'm doing fine. And look, you just completed the spring game, scrimmage, whatever you want to call it, this past Saturday, and completed spring practice. So just first off, going with your gut, what were your thoughts on spring practice for Al Golden and the crew?
Well, I think it went pretty well, other than the fact that they lost their quarterback to injury, which obviously was a devastating blow to a team that already was thin at the quarterback position. But if we put that aside for a moment, I'm sure you're going to want to talk about that a little more. But,
yeah.
I thought they did a decent job developing some depth in different spots on the roster. The offensive line comes to mind. The tight end position comes to mind. I liked what I saw out of the receivers. I think the defense in general is obviously still a question mark and is going to be until they show up on Saturday afternoons in the fall and perform a lot better than they did in the latter part of last season. But I liked what I saw of the young linebackers that came into the program, Jawan Young, Darian Owens, a pair of freshmen. I think they're showing promise for the future. I thought the safety position got better during the spring with the emergence of Jamal Carter as a contender to start and the move of Dallas Crawford from running back to safety. I thought they got some productive things done this spring, but obviously the injury to Ryan Williams, the quarterback, kind of pollutes the waters a little bit for Miami.
Yeah, it's a good point for all Hurricane fans. And what happened with Ryan Williams? I mean, was it a fluke injury, something in practice? What happened with him, and what's the latest with him?
Well, I mean, he was scrambling in a scrimmage, and I guess took a bad step or something along the way and tore the ACL in his right knee. So he required surgery, and all reports are that the surgery did go well, and he's already started his rehab. But, the question is, how fast can he get back, and how much do they rush it? That's the big issue. Typically with ACLs, you're looking at least a 6-month recovery. But a 6-month recovery would take Ryan Williams very deep into the 2014 season. So not really sure how it's going to play out. I'm guessing that they're going to have to start the season with a different quarterback, and I think they're prepared to do so. In a perfect world, that would have been Kevin Olson, but I'm not sure Kevin Olson is really far enough along right now in his own development to stake a claim to that job just on the face value of it. I think Brad Kaya, a true freshman coming in, will have a lot to say about how that goes. And, we'll see where it goes from there. And you have another true freshman coming in, Malik Rozier.
Is this one of those things where we probably won't know until Labor Day who the starter could be for the Hurricanes?
Yeah. Well, I imagine we'll know a couple days before that, but yeah, I expect it to go all the way to the end of fall camp. I don't see how they're going to know earlier than that, to be honest with you. I expect it to be a game week decision, and wouldn't be shocked if they tried to keep it a secret until game time.
No, it's a good point. I'm happy you answered that right there. And, okay, Duke Johnson was one of those stars of the team last year from the running back position. Just a stud in some of the big games for the Hurricanes. Is he now kind of the face of the team? I know he was kind of injured out of the spring game on Saturday, but especially with the problems with the quarterback position, is this kind of his team to lead? Like, this guy's need to step up and really help the Hurricanes?
Oh, yeah. I think that was the case before Ryan Williams got hurt. Now the quarterback's out. I don't think there's any question that this team is going to look to Duke Johnson to be Duke Johnson again coming off that injury. And it'll be interesting to see how Duke is able to respond to that. The signs are good on his rehab. He actually got out there a little bit the last week of spring practice and did some light work. But the big key with him is going to be, does he have his burst back? Does he have his speed? Is he able to cut the way he's always cut, which is so critical to Duke Johnson's game? And we won't know that until we see him in the fall.
Yeah. What about Gus Edwards, a guy who stepped up in the spring game, 19 carries, 70 yards? Is it him as the backup, or is there going to be a bunch of guys behind Duke Johnson?
Well, I think Gus Edwards has earned his way into that status. I don't think there's any doubt about it. He gives them a big back that Also is sneaky fast. I mean, even though he's a bigger kid and more of a power guy, he can get out there on the edge and make guys miss and get upfield. So got to be very encouraged with the development of Gus Edwards here in his first year as a Hurricane, and he was one of those guys I did think took a step forward in spring practice. He's learning how to run lower. He's seeing his cuts quicker. Look, really, really good. Now, you mentioned, does he have the number 2 job by default? I think he probably does, but there's also a freshman coming in by the name of Joseph Yearby, who's also coming off an injury, who may have something to say about who gets reps during games. Very much in the mold of Duke Johnson. He's a smaller running back, but extremely fast, has great footwork and cuts exceptionally well. And so Joe Yearby could more than likely work his way into the lineup as well for Miami.
We're here with Gary Ferman.
And then before we move on from there, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Walter Tucker, who's a bigger back who got a little work at tailback this spring as well as fullback, and I'm looking to him to be the starting fullback for this team next year and do really well. He
doesn't have any injuries, right? This is getting a little depressing here, man. Who's healthy on the offense? This is getting ugly for Hurricane fans.
Well, Walter was hurt a little bit, banged up a little bit last year, but he's come back well, and he was healthy all spring and really looked good.
All right. I like that as an answer. We're here with Gary Ferman, Canesport.com, part of the Rivals Network. Give him a follow. It's a must if you like the Hurricanes or the ACC at Canesport. And, I was talking with Seminole and Gator reporters about this, so I want to ask you the same question. If you look at the wide receiver position, what is the depth chart going in the fall? I mean, who's your 1, who's your 2, and who's your 3 when you look at the wide receiver position?
Well, they have a great deal of depth there, to be totally honest, and it's going to be really important that they develop a quarterback here that can get the ball to these guys, because if you negate the impact that receivers have the capability of making on football games this fall, it's not going to bode well for Miami. So, I'll say that right off the top. Now, who's the one who's got to start with Stacey Coley, just an elite receiver, a guy that I think in a couple of years is going to be a very high first-round draft pick. Really has it all, and came on strong in the latter parts of last year, and made a lot of big plays, and I think he's going to be one of the top receivers in college football this fall. So I'll start with him. Philip Dorsett, coming back off the injury, looked very good this spring, and I expect him to have a great season next year. From there, you've got guys like Herb Waters. Rayshawn Scott also did very well this spring. A guy that came out of nowhere, Amari Jones, had a solid spring, and he's going to be trying to get out on the field. So Miami has a lot of depth and a lot of talent at that receiver position. And, like I said, the key is going to be developing a quarterback that can get them the football.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Gary. Switching gears to the defense, I just saw a video this morning of Denzel Perryman with the helmet cam, and he's tackling people. And I know he had a vicious hit on one of the running backs. I mean, how much of a stud was this guy on Saturday?
Well, yeah, they really were kind of just not. They were messing around a little bit on Saturday. They didn't take that scrimmage too seriously, and really was just a glorified, very simple, basic practice. But Denzel, without question, is their top linebacker coming back, a guy who's a veteran, played a lot of football, loves to hit, and they're moving him to the middle and are hoping that by switching him back to the middle now with all the extra knowledge that he's picked up since his first year, when he also plays in the middle, that he can help them improve on defense by making plays. And we'll see. I have some concerns. I'm a little concerned about his size. I'm not sure that because of that he always sees the plays developing to the degree that you would like for your best linebacker to be able to do. But and I think that contributes a little bit to his inconsistencies. But there's no question that if he does see the play, Denzel Perryman can get there quickly and he can make a big hit.
Were there any other guys in spring practice on the defense side of the ball that really stood out to you? That like, okay, this guy can make an impact in 2014?
Well, let me think about that a little bit because I don't really want to oversell this. I'm a big believer in. You watched that Russell Athletic Bowl, and this defense got to school pretty good, and Louisville did pretty much whatever they wanted against them, and now they got to open the season with that same Louisville team that's got a lot of those skill talents coming back. So, I don't want to get crazy here, but, I thought Artie Burns made some forward movement at cornerback. I think you have to be kind of encouraged there. I talked about the safeties earlier. I thought they looked a little bit better. Like I said, I like the young linebackers, giving them some depth at the linebacker position. Now, defensive tackle to me is obviously a continued problem spot. They're going to be looking for a young man by the name of Michael Weiss, a JUCO transfer coming in to really claim a starting job there very quickly. And I expect that to happen. And we'll see. He's a massive human being, and we'll see what kind of impact that has. And then at defensive end, you've got a really heralded freshman by the name of Chad Thomas coming in this fall, and I think that we're going to have to see how quickly he can pick things up and develop and get himself into the mix at defensive end. You've got Muhammad and McCord, who played last year, coming back as sort of like your pass rush specialists. One of them could also start at defensive end if they're not beat out by Chad Thomas. And then, to me, one of the keys for the whole defense is on the other side of defensive end, Bamba Kamalu, a guy that he looks the part. He looks like what a defensive end at the University of Miami should look like. But now he's got to show, after a pretty quiet year last year, that he can take the next step in his game and become more of an impact player.
Good stuff. Let me end with this, and what's kind of funny is, especially Florida State did the same thing. I got to ask you like the Joan Rivers fashion police question now. You got the new jerseys as well, so what are your thoughts on that new look for the Hurricanes with some of the games they'll be playing this fall?
I think it's pretty fresh, I mean, they're nice, and Miami needed a little bit of a change, I think. I mean, you love the traditional orange and white jerseys that they've worn for so many years. But I don't think it hurt them to sort of go to Nike the way they did and work with those guys and come up with a little bit of a different look. I think it gets the kids excited. I think it's something more to talk about with recruits. And, so I like them, and I like the move, and it'll be interesting to see, what people think when they go out on the field in September.
Is it going to be every game or just selected games? I mean, how's that going to work?
Every game. They've got at least 4 different uniforms, and they have multiple combinations that they can create off of those 4 different sets of uniforms. So, the Miami Hurricanes will have an entirely new look starting this year.
All right, that's awesome. Gary Ferman with Canesport.com, part of the Rivals Network. Give him a follow on Twitter at Canesport. Gary, appreciate the insight into the football team, and I hope I can get you on again.
Anytime.